Starting with news from Russia, an audio clip of jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny has emerged in which he is hitting out at Russian President Vladimir Putin. Navalny can be heard calling Putin an underwear poisoner. The recording comes amid mounting international backlash on the opposition leader's arrest. And Navalny said that Putin hated as well as feared him. In the audio recorded before he was jailed, Navalny said, and I'm quoting here, Putin's only method is to try to kill people. However much he pretends to be a great geopolitician, some sort of leader of the world, his main grudge against me is that he'll go into history as a poisoner. We will have Vladimir the Underwear Poisoner. Remember, Navalny returned to Russia last month after undergoing treatment for Novichok poisoning in Germany. However, he was immediately arrested upon his return to Moscow. A Russian court later handed him a sentence of over 3 years. The opposition leader's troubles are not yet over. He is due to stand trial for slander. He has been accused of maligning a World War II veteran who featured in Putin's promotional videos. This offense carries a prison sentence of 2 years. Meanwhile, French President Emmanuel Macron has slammed the court's verdict, saying that it has made a huge mistake and that the opposition leader's arrest would affect Russia's stability. Macron's remarks came as videos emerged showing packed jails in Russia.
Obviously, I totally share your remarks on Mr. Navalny, and I expressed yesterday my strong and clear condemnation after this Russian decision to condemn somebody basically not to be compliant with his constraint in Russia as he was being treated in Berlin, which is, I think, probably the most obvious way to express a sort of irony and disrespect, not just for him, but for the rest of the world. I think this is a huge mistake, even for Russian stability today.
And the issue is likely to come up in EU-Russia meet. The Eurozone's top diplomat Josep Borrell will be meeting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. Earlier in a conversation with Lavrov, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken expressed concerns over Navalny's arrest. We are now being joined by our correspondent Daria Bondarchuk for more on this. Thank you so much for joining us. Now that this audio recording has emerged, what can you tell us about its practical implications in the Navalny case?
Well, Moscow has warned Europe against trying to use this meeting between the Russian officials and the EU's top foreign policy chief to discuss the Navalny case. Moscow maintains that that would be an intervention into Russia's internal affairs, and the Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov earlier said that Moscow hoped that such a nonsense as linking the prospects of Russia-EU relations with the issue, the case of the resident of the detention center, will not happen, and said that Moscow would be ready to further develop and discuss ties with Brussels. However, the Kremlin is not ready to listen to advice, as Mr. Peskov put it, on the issue of Navalny. Of course, Europe is expected that its top foreign policy envoy will be delivering a clear message, and Josep Borrell, on the eve of his visit to Moscow himself, said that he would deliver a clear message to Moscow on the issue of Mr. Navalny. Of course, there is huge pressure from democratic activists and movements all across Europe, and Mr. Navalny's supporters living in Europe, Russians and foreigners as well. And of course, domestically, we've seen in the past couple of weeks huge protests in dozens and even hundreds of cities across Russia in support of the jailed opposition activist politician. Nonetheless, the response from the Kremlin has been that with dispersing the unsanctioned rallies, as Moscow has been saying that any mass actions in the streets are prohibited due to the coronavirus pandemic, and therefore deemed any public rallies illegal.
Okay, all right. Of course, talking about the public rallies, there has been unrest, and calls by the international community are also increasing to release Alexei Navalny. What can you tell us about that?
Well, Mr. Navalny, just wanted to add one little detail. Mr. Navalny himself is right now in a court hearing on yet another case that was brought against him, that of defamation of a World War II veteran, and he is under additional pressure. He's already been charged with 2 years and 8 months in prison just this Tuesday, earlier this week, and we've seen huge protests following that arrest and before that. But now Mr. Navalny's supporters, his team, declared last night that so far they are postponing, putting on pause any public rallies until spring or summer, saying that they need time to prepare and focus on the main target, which is the elections we're going to see later in September this year across Russia.
All right, so what can we expect now going forward, that the protests are going to be suspended?
Yes, we expect that the protests will be, as per Navalny's team statement, suspended until late in spring and then in summer. And his team and his supporters will be focusing on trying to overturn and make more impact on the upcoming elections. And but of course, there is expectation that the pressure from the EU and the West and calls to release the arrested opposition activists will be at least brought to the Kremlin's attention and will be discussed during these meetings of EU's foreign policy and with Joseph Borrell here in Moscow and tomorrow with Russian human rights lawyers, civil society leaders, and of course Russian politicians.
All right, Arya, thank you so much for joining us with all those details. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.